Let me make sure on all the feeds because
Okay.
it messes with me. Let's see, and then we'll see if people start bouncing in here.
Yeah, let me see if because then I could check right here.
Looks like we're good there. Let me see if we're good over on YouTube. We are live, man. We are very, very live. So I should have people
Yeah, we
popping
are.
in here from a comment standpoint
And
pretty
what
soon.
I am going to do is
Beautiful. Okay.
I'll even put it as a tweet, and then I will put it on
And
Facebook
I
as
am
well, so that
we are
you know.
golden. Let me make sure I'm up here. I don't usually do it this way, but I'm using different software tonight, so I have to use it this way. And
That's right.
good. Okay. Awesome.
Cool.
Welcome to Revolution Network. This is Dr. Jason Dean. We are live on a Friday night, which means Jason Q. That means that we don't have to stop until we're done because I don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to be anywhere. And we're ready to rock and roll. How you doing, buddy?
Good, good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Are you studying as always?
Uh, yeah, always, always, always.
Always,
There's
always.
there's always stuff to find. Always.
I agree. I have
Always.
to give a shout out. So we always do this, and you've never been on the nightly show, so I do this a little differently than the afternoon show when I don't have as much time. Um, Jason Q is sporting his Space Force shirt. Fantastic. I
Huh,
love it.
not bad,
Space
huh?
Force. There you go. And I am supporting If This Flag Offends You, I'll Help You Pack, which is from my good friends, the St. John family, Dr. St. John. So awesome. Well, dude, we are going to cover a couple things tonight, and it always goes down different rabbit holes. And I told everyone, I posted earlier, buddy, I posted everybody that buckle up because the things they're going to hear tonight and going forward out of you, because we have conversations on the phone that always blow my mind. And the studying you're doing is so deep, so intense that they're going to have stories shattered. They're going to have revelations. They're going to have just amazing stuff. So I got your notes that you emailed me. So I have those. I can share screen at any time if we need to, and I'll guide you through those. But I want you to start because we were talking right before we came on camera. We were talking about how 9/11 started. We're going to dive down 9/11 and probably NASA/Flat Earth tonight a little bit on those two things because I know you have information that will blow minds. But do me a favor. I want you to start exactly where we left off before we went live, which was the meaning behind the towers and why this actually occurred. So I'm going to let you take off on that.
Okay. Um, there's one thing that Q always mentioned. He mentioned that, well, they mentioned that everything was about symbolism. So you always want to look at everything in symbolic ways, whether it be when things are capitalized, they're capitalized for a reason. You know, you look for acronyms. You search for all the acronyms, and you would not believe some of the things that you'll find throughout there. So when I started digging down into the whole 9/11, the whole symbolism behind both towers coming down and the two plumes of smoke, what it is it actually borderlines also with World War II and the two atomic bombs, because Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Fat Man, Little Boy, were never supposed to be launched. We were infiltrated before then by the Nazis. So what it was when they're the two columns of smoke, it's a satanic Zionist Masonic symbol of the two columns of the third temple they want to build in which to crown their king of the world. And I wanted to read that verbatim because I didn't want to, mess anything up. But what it is that's why they're so hell bent on building this third temple, because they're over there sacrificing animals, thinking that Trump's going to build this third temple. Well, little do they know, the third temple's already been done. The third temple, the symbolism, what they did is instead of building a temple, he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv, the U.S. embassy, to Jerusalem.
Right.
And he always made it a point to say, look how cheap I did it. Look how cheap I did it. It was all done cheap. Because when you look back in the Old Testament at 1st and 2nd Chronicles, and that's when, you know, because I've never read the whole Bible or anything, because I've always thought that there's something wrong with it, you know, because there was so much taken out of it. It just wasn't right. You know, like there's some right, and then there's some that's just like, it's just incomplete. Well, the Bible was meant to be decoded, not read. It's just like anything else. And what it was there was a group that actually decoded it. They were called the Moonies. And these Moonies, it's the United Movement. It was from a South Korean family. The last name was Moon. They actually own the New Yorker Hotel in New York City. In which case, if anybody knows anything about that, that's the one that Tesla had built, and it's a time machine. So it's Trump Tower, and they're actually connected underground. It's actually it's way weird, but the whole 9/11, what the storyline that they gave us by saying that it was the Muslims, it was the Islam, everything like this. The reason why they did that, and it's a simple reason, it's because of a letter written on, well, it was dated on August 15th, 1871, by Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini. Now, Giuseppe Mazzini was also one of the founders of the Freemasons, and he was also the founder of the Mafia, because the Mafia, it's actually an acronym as well, but it's all Italian, and I can't speak Italian, so you know, next time I'll bring it out.
Okay.
But what it was that it had all 3 world wars outlined.
Right.
The scary part is that this was actually posted, the original letter, it was posted in a London university, in their library, the original letter. It was taken down in 1977.
My birthday year.
Yeah, well, mine was 76, go figure. And I'm just like, you know, being a bicentennial baby, I'm like, why would they take it down in 77? But then when you realize what happened in 1979, with the overthrow of the Shah in Iran and all that, you're like, huh. Then it all starts making sense once you start going down all these rabbit holes. You start making all these connections, because if this guy was like, you know, the head of the Freemasons, the top dog, everybody, you know, they swear by him. I mean, he was a Confederate general, and there's even a statue of him across from the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. And it's like, well, you'll never see that statue defaced, because why? You know, because there's a lot of people that are Masons. Like this whole George Floyd thing, that was all a Masonic false flag.
Right.
You know, they did that in order to kick it up, because they knew that the beginning of World War III was to be the political you had the political ideology of Israel, which, you know, was all the Jews and everything, was going against the Arabs, and they were going to destroy each other. Well, then there were people like us, like we were just on the fence. We're just like, well, what's going on? So, you know, while we're all looking around, you know, staring out for answers, well, then they would have the nihilists and the anarchists come out and start raising hell and start destroying things. I mean, if that doesn't sound like what's going, yeah, that sounds like present day. It's exactly what it is. This whole BLM, this whole Antifa, all of this was all pre-planned. And back in 1871, it was. I mean, communism,
Right.
you know, everything. And when people realized that, you know, communism and everything was all concocted through Judaism, and that's why everything is through all the wars that have been fought because of religions. But the funny thing is that all these religions have one base, and that's in Switzerland. So Switzerland is the main, I mean, they are the main hub of everything going on in the entire world.
I have read that. And that, actually, the castle over there is what castle they used for Disney. That's the Bavarian Illuminati castle. Was that correct?
Yes, yes, the Bavarian castle. Yes, and that's where Hitler kept a lot of the artwork that they plundered as well during all their I guess you could say just, you know, their thievery and
yeah, they plundered everywhere. Yeah, they took everything.
But unfortunately, you know, for another show, there's a whole completely different story for that as well.
We'll go into that. Now, how does this tie to 9/11? Because we were talking about the towers and they meant something.
Yeah. Yeah, because the symbolism of the towers is because you have Tower 1, Tower 2, and Tower 7, right? You have the man, you have the woman, and you have the child, right? Because man and woman are the same height, right? And the child is smaller. They had all three of them come down, and then what did they do to put their like a memorial in their place? They made these big black granite cubes in the ground, and what they did was they put the names of all the people that died all the way around it. So people would go and they'd pay their respect and they'd read along and they'd go around the cube. So what is that? They're worshiping Saturnalia. In effect, I mean, they everything that they do for an explicit reason. It's to give them more energy. It's you just feed the evil more energy. It's just like a cross, like the Christian cross, how it's depicted. All it is, it's a deconstructed cube.
Yeah, I've actually seen that, and I've always, you know, obviously, and I tell everyone I respect every faith they come from, but I've actually seen, if you go into breaking down the science of stuff, if you open the cube up, you actually get a cross out of it, and they kind of reverse that, which was obviously horrible because they're going to hurt a lot of people because they don't know that translation of it. So, but the towers are literally because the New World Order talks about whether I read Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. I've read many others. And the whole point behind the New World Order was to destroy the nuclear family, because the family is what keeps us all together. Because not only are we a family of mother, father, which obviously the only way, and I've talked about this, the only way to create a new civilization or create our civilization going forward is male and female. There's no other way. So they're pushing this whole bi, transsexual, like this whole gender thing, which also destroys the family, because you're saying it's okay to do things that are not actually physiologically and biologically okay. But the towers bring down the nuclear family, and that's how they ultimately wanted to do this whole thing. So dive into that if you can.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, that's why they're so supportive of BLM. And like what people want to do with their sexual lives or whatever, that's on them, you know. But you know, I worked in Chicago because the one thing that actually I have a leg up on with the whole 9/11 is that I was an iron worker for 21 years, well, 22 years. But, you know, I pretty much walked away from it because I just, you know, when you fall out of love with something when it doesn't love you back, you got to call it quits, you know. And when you walk away from that kind of money and all that, it's just, you're doing it for a reason bigger than what you think. And, you know, I've been called idiotic, stupid, you know, but you know, you have to have your, you know, you have to have your morals, and you have to have your, you know, you have to have some kind of moral compass behind it all.
Right, 100% agreed.
I can't go to work and them telling me that, well, you need to vote for Democrats because that's voting for your job. Well, that's not, because it's like, guys, from 2008 to 2016, there was no work in Chicago, and who was the president? It's like, you guys not understand this? So as for me, you know, getting called every name in the book, and then just because I actually said that I thought that Trump was going to be one of the greatest presidents we've ever had, and this was back in right after it was that winter of 2016, 2017. And well, when you know what I mean, well, I think he's pretty much you know, climbing up in rank. You know, I mean, he's at least top 3. You know,
so we had the destruction of the towers, the destruction of the nuclear
yes.
family, amongst a million other things. Now, take us through some of the information you know about 9/11. You watched the hour and a half that I did last night, or at least probably part of it. Now, I believe there was some CGI planes, but you're actually telling me some other things too that I didn't know. So take me through some of that if you can.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there was a company behind all of this, and this goes way back to, because this all involves Serco, and I don't know if anybody knows about Serco, but they have control.
That's a new name for me too.
Okay, so what it is, and this has Trump written all over it and everything. This goes back to the Titanic. Okay, yeah. The sinking of the Titanic, it was the Marconi wireless telegraph system. It was on the Temple Mount, and it was also on the Titanic. And it was 15 to 20 minutes before they struck the iceberg, that it came across the radio that they said, you know, turn course, that there was an iceberg in front of them, you know, if they needed to turn course. Well, they were like, well, we don't see one or anything like that. They said, you know, it's man, you know, make sure you turn course. So what they went right into it. Right? Because remember, they needed to make sure that Strauss, Guggenheim, and Astor were not to hit the U.S. at all.
Right.
So who made that was you had the why am I drawing a blank here?
Yeah, take your time.
Marconi. Yeah.
Who is also a genius inventor for people who didn't know, along with Tesla.
And actually, he was actually one of Tesla's favorite students, and they were best friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what happened was that all of these inventions that the deep state and all the you know, deep state, shadow government, all these, you know, evil entities used, they actually used, like, they were making them for good, but they were using them for bad.
Right.
So it's like everybody, in every essence of vengeance, everybody has a piece of the pie. Everybody, down to Trump, everyone. So what happened was that it was RCA GB 1929. That was the name of the patent, right? Now, the patent actually went, it was actually, because that's where RCA came from, you know, the RCA TVs and everything. Right. Well, in order to have all of these, you know, in order to own a company, you want to be the majority stockholder. Well, back in the 1980s, there was a bidding war between two entities to get the most stock, right? One of them was Nicholas and Rupert Soames, which were Winston Churchill's grandsons, and the other one was Donald John Trump. So the thing is that the price was driven so high that he had to back out. He couldn't get it. Okay. So he knew about it back then. So it's like everybody talks about time travel. It's like, oh, he's way deep in this time travel, way deep. It's like, you know, there's no doubt in my mind that they've all time traveled. Because what happens after that is, you know, he bought the New Jersey Generals, because the NFL would not let him buy an NFL team. So he bought a USFL team, right? Yep. And the thing is that that's why Herschel Walker's such a big player in this.
He was never in the club, so he just bought up other stuff.
So what he did was he bought this USFL team, the New Jersey Generals. That's why they're like, oh, why does he surround himself with generals? It's like, well, he bought the New Jersey Generals, but who was on the New Jersey Generals? He had Herschel Walker. He had Doug Flutie. He had Jim Kelly. I mean, his team was stacked.
It was
what
stacked.
he wanted to do, and he wanted to play against the
he wanted
NFL
to go
teams.
against. He wanted to go head to head with the NFL.
Exactly. But the thing is that they didn't want, they wanted to just put him in court and everything like that, because he wanted to build this big stadium. He's like, I want to build a stadium, say Trump Stadium, because you know how he was, back then, arrogant, all this. But he had to play that role, because he had to play that arrogant, like, man, this guy's such a lovable dick that it's like you can't hate him, because he's like the philanthropist that everybody wants to be. But then it's like, he does it with such just.
Someone dropped a meme the other day saying that they don't actually hate Trump. They just hate that they're not him.
Oh, yeah. Well, they hate Trump because now they understand that what he's doing is he's bringing down their whole little Candyland version of pedophilia and all this other stuff, because that's all it was all rooted around. And he's like, not on my watch, not today, because he was just like, I mean, he played the best Brutus. Just jumped right in there. He's like, yeah, hey, buddy. And then all of a sudden now it's just stabbing everybody in the back. And it's great because it was actually in a book, which was written in 2005. This one right here. Total Diplomacy, The Art of Winning Risk, right?
Okay.
Because in one of the first drops, they talk about the global game of risk. Well, in two of the drops, they had risk R, capital R, lowercase ISK, and one of them, with Saudi Arabia involved, it was all capitalized. Well, in this book, believe it or not, this is a golden Bible for all this, because they talk about tit for tat, about what he's getting ready to do, make all these deals, and then if you're not playing the game anymore, you just kill all the deals and you just stab everyone right in the back. You become the biggest backstabber. I'm like, there's no way. I mean, this whole entire book written in I mean, even the chapter 7, right? It's actually the art of debate. And I'm like, you think of the art of war, the art of the deal, the art of the debate. And it's like, this entire book is pretty much a way of, because after you read it, you understand that what they try to do is make a game into life, how you can actually win at life and how to be a better person. And they give you 7 rules. And I mean, the 7 rules I read, I'm like, they're just ingenious.
Nice.
And they talk about that dynamics of the game. They have like all the theories. They have rational choice theory. And what do they use as a model? The Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm like, everything is about this. Even chapter 8-7 is turtles, right? And it's right after tit for tat. And it's like how a turtle dies, turtle believers, turtle killers, and all this, the moral dilemma, the doctrine. And why they put that in there with turtles is because that's what they call Turtle Bay. That's where the UN is in New York. They call that Turtle Bay. So they call the UN the turtles. So it's like they're talking about how they're going to kill the turtles, how they're going to kill the UN. I mean, they're doing it like textbook. I mean, they're using this as a textbook guide.
So if you want to know what Trump's doing, the art of diplomacy.
Yes. And it's only $15, right?
I'm sure you can buy it. Yeah.
And I'll even I'll send all the information. And just to make, just to prove that they did this on purpose, if you notice, like there's on every page, there's writing on everything, right? Oh, it's not highlighted too, of course. One page has nothing on it.
What is that? 3, 2,
Page,
Skull and Bones.
Yeah, they even come on. I'm like, they even show
Wait, so there's a blank page on 322, which is well known to be Skull and Bones.
It's showing them no love. It's like, it's beautiful. I mean,
he literally knows exactly what's happening. Now, he knew also, did he know 9/11 was coming and he couldn't stop it? I mean, because I watched a lot of his videos today back when it happened, and he even said, there's no way those planes took down those towers unless there were also bombs involved, because he actually goes through the structure. And you told me earlier today, being a steel worker, the way the steel is set up, it's not physically possible. Iron worker, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Steel worker makes the steel, iron worker puts it up. Big difference. But it's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so tell me about that. Give me some more 9/11 and how those towers came down.
Okay. Well, the towers, there's no possible way that those towers could have came down in their own footprint, because the two towers were built in such a way that's why they had all skinny windows, because all the outside columns were like, I mean, they were stout. I mean, they were like 3 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet wide, and it was all iron. I mean, you can even watch on YouTube how they built it and how it was all constructed. And then they show, like, back in the 30s, I believe, when there was a plane that hit the Rockefeller Center.
Right.
Right. And what it did, it just like dented it. I mean, people were just like, I mean, you've seen what a bird does to a plane.
Right.
I mean, it dents all the hell. I mean, there's no way that all of this could have happened with this. None. So they used all the patents, and that comes from Serco and and with Serco, what happened was that because he couldn't get outbid, right? So Rupert Nicholas Soames took over the majority of RCHEB 1929, in which they turned that into Serco. So what happened was Serco actually took over the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Because remember, in 1871, they still had us by the balls, and nobody really knew that, because they just kept on because they always used us as their little wartime. If they want to get back at somebody, they're just going to use the stupid Americans, because they have all the money, they have all the stuff, they have all the material. If a bunch of them die, who cares? And it's pretty bad. It's pretty lousy to even think of it that way, but that's what they thought of us. And that's when even Trump's like, you would not believe who your friends are and who your enemies are. Because all the way back to the Civil War, we would have been taken over by England and France, and it was all set up, if it wasn't for one country giving Abraham Lincoln the call and saying, hey, just letting you know, this is what's getting ready to happen, so you might want to do something. So they formed the blockade, and it was Mother Russia. So because France was actually they were actually on the border of Mexico, and England was on the border of Canada. And what they were going to do is they started the Civil War. England and France did. They sparked that. So you had North and South fighting each other. So what they did was, because a lot of it had to do with the whole Freemasons as well, because it had to do with Albert Pike.
Right.
Because they were over there. I mean, they were killing all these they were going on Indian reservations and killing all these people, just nonsensical killing. And everybody says it was all because of slavery. Not even a chance,
Right.
So what happened was that when they finally found out that it was Russia that told Lincoln, then they started plotting their revenge. When did their revenge come? The Bolshevik Revolution. Who financed that? Jacob Schiff.
the banker.
Great-grandfather, the great-grandfather of Adam Schiff.
What?
And it's like,
that's a big one, dude.
How everything is so interlinked. It's just like, you've got to be kidding me.
And this is why Adam Schiff goes after Trump like a freaking bulldog.
Yes.
Dude, that's a boom right there, dude.
And the thing is, look at what he's getting ready to do now. He's like, well, we're going to go after Russia again. Russian interference. it's like you still can't take the loss that you guys had back in 1865, can you? I mean, they're worse than an ex-girlfriend. I mean, seriously. No offense to ex-girlfriends out there, but come on, let things go, I mean, well,
I didn't. I actually, it's funny. I knew about Jacob Schiff and I knew about the Schiff family, and I hadn't tied it to Adam. That's crazy.
Did you know that they actually lived with the Rothschilds? They actually, the Rothschilds and the Schiffs actually lived in a 5-story building together from the 1700s, late 1700s to the 1800s. Yep.
Jeez.
I mean, they were tight. Very tight.
So because, I'm assuming, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I'm assuming, so 9/11 happens. We know it was completely staged. And I went through some of that last night. We don't have to dive deep unless you want to. Now, actually, dive into a little bit of, you sent over to me the notes that were written by 𝗫𝗁𝗂𝗁.
Yes.
Can you give me the highlights of that, and I'll bring her notes up just so people can see the notes that you actually showed me.
You know what? If you want to bring them up, because that's what I was
I don't know if you can see them. I'll bring them up. Hold on one second.
Yeah, bring them up, and if you want to bring them up, and then I know they're in one of these notes real quick, and I'm just gonna check real quick. All right, thanks.
I'm gonna bring them up. Okay, guys. So we're dropping bombs, massive bombs here. If you hadn't noticed, while he gets the 𝗫𝗁𝗂𝗁 notes, I also have the 𝗫𝗁𝗂𝗁 notes on my computer that he has written notes on and highlighted on. Okay, so I'm going to bring them up and share them while he goes through them when he gets them out of his binder, because he has a Dewey Decimal System behind him. And we're gonna rock through these a little bit, and then we'll switch over to NASA and flat Earth, because he's gonna tell us some more stuff about that in a little bit. But I think you're gonna want to see these notes, and let me bring them up the best I can here while he's doing that. Good, there we go. So I don't know if it's gonna be big enough for you or not, because just the way it's set up on my computer, and I have not had a chance to print them out, but he will take us through some of these. But these are actually the notes. It's actually handwritten notes, not just notes. These are handwritten notes, right? That 𝗫𝗁𝗂𝗁, the daughter of then Vice President.
The wife.
Oh, wife. I'm sorry. Wife of Dick Cheney. And she actually wrote these. These are the notes of 9/11 that she hand wrote, and we're going to have him take us through some of these as he finds his catalog of data.
How I don't know. All I could say is that whoever
we're listening,
whoever blessed me with all this, because I'll tell you what, this is not me. It's C student, didn't pay much attention in school because just didn't care. That's why I kind of laugh when if like some of the some of my ex-teachers or anybody like that saw this, because they'd be like,
I'm not worried about your education right now, man. The information and data you have are, you've obviously been put here for a purpose, which I think people have told me. I'm also been put here for a purpose to help spread this information. And so don't worry about your background, your education. Even Bill Gates, billionaire, he dropped out. So like not a big deal, dude. Well, so Jason Q is currently getting.
He would have dropped out a lot earlier. I'll tell you that much. It would have helped.
Jason Q is currently getting his notes. All right, so Jason, do me a favor while you're doing that. Yeah. Can you? So one of the most common questions I get, and people are dropping this question right now, is, and I can't answer this fully because, quite honestly, I just don't know. But it doesn't necessarily. It's not a minor detail because there's lives involved. but it's not the grand scheme of what we're talking about. But what happened to the people or the passengers that were in the planes?
Oh, good question. There's a couple theories I've heard. I've heard that they were landed in a couple hangars and they were
I've heard that one.
Executed.
Yep, I've heard that one.
And also, I've heard that one or two of them were flown through Canada and shot down by NATO.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one.
That's where the whole 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, because that's a NATO call sign for the launching of the AMRAAM missile.
Got it. Makes sense. All right. Dive into these notes, man. I'll follow you. I'm gonna keep them up as long as I can. I'll try to follow along. If not, no big deal. You just keep going with it.
Okay. Well, so now these are handwritten notes from. Now, when it says 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, that's Lynn Vincent Cheney, because her her maiden name was Vincent. Now, it says, you know, RBC. RBC is Richard B. Cheney. It says on the phone with POTUS, advising that 3 planes are missing, and that was at 9:55. And it says one has hit Pentagon. Now there are pictures that I sent you also. Did you get those?
I think I did. Yes. Let me try to find them. While you keep talking, I'll bring them up.
Okay. And the one that hit the Pentagon was an actual missile. And we actually have pictures of the missile that they used on the Pentagon. I mean, we have a lot of stuff.
Keep going.
And it says at 10:10, it says FAA shuts down all U.S. flights. It says ultimate location for Dick.
There's the Pentagon one I have.
Yes, and that's the actual missile that actually hit the Pentagon. And people are like, oh, it's photoshopped. I'm like, if people can zoom in if they want to crop it and zoom in, you can actually see at the straps where there's no way that you could Photoshop it, because the paint actually goes underneath the straps and everything. Because that's the first thing people say is Photoshop. I'm like, guys, just get that out of your head. You know, a lot of stuff isn't, you know, Photoshop. Now it says right here, it says at 10:12, explosion at Lincoln Memorial. Now the thing is, we weren't notified about any explosion at Lincoln Memorial at all.
Right.
We were just told about the World Trade Center, you know, 1 and 2, and this. And then it says helicopter crashed the Pentagon. And then it says 10:17 explosion on Capitol Hill. It says aircraft been downed, forced, shot, asked to evacuate. It says stay put. And Dick says, it says Boston LAX into Trade Center. Mineta thinks, because there's like, you know, Rumsfeld and you know, George Bush. Because let's face it, GW. I mean, he was just a puppet. I mean, he was the dumb one. I mean, just beyond dumb.
Right.
And they talk about that there was a car bombing at the State Department.
Right.
I mean, there's some really damning things, and it says right here, 10:28, both towers have collapsed. Plane 10 miles out has hit ground. Don't know where or how.
Yep.
It says two planes down, and then it says at 10:51, and who's in the room, right?
Right.
And it says Tommy Zotto, Bob Roberts, military photographer, Mary Madeline, Eric Edelman, Scooter Libby, Mineta, says senior SR Mineta.
Yeah,
Their handwriting sucks. Yep. And it says O/ZUS, including young woman, it has 4 question marks. It says Anna Perez, Lieutenant Commander Cochran, Mike Frenzel. And it says the STRATCOM exercise. It says all 3 planes accounted for at 11:59. And it's like, well, the 3 planes were missing, but now they're accounted for.
And
You
you
know,
told me about the war games thing, right?
yes, the what this was this was a Global Guardian war game of September 11th or September 10th through 12th, 2001. That was what this was all defined on. And actually, India was in on this as well because they one of their heads was a part of creating these war games, and his name was Senegal, and that's why the whole Adam Lovinger and his whole firing at the office in that assessment. That's why that was so big. And I mean, we can get into that later because I have a whole map and chart of how everybody's connected, and it's crazy what's up here. So it's nuts. It says
Go ahead.
Condoleezza Rice has talked to Putin.
Yep.
𝗪𝗁𝗔𝗂𝘁 says we know who did it. Of
Yep.
course, they're going to pin it on good old Bin Laden because he was
CIA asset.
So was Obama.
Yep.
Because Obama was a CIA asset for Afghanistan and Pakistan during the Afghanistan-Pakistan war against Russia.
Right.
That's how 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀𝘂𝘁 got a hold of him and started, grooming him to be a president.
Right.
That's why he's a big player in this. That's why they created the Trilateral Commission, and that's why Mika's in her spot, and
correct.
That's why when they killed him, they pretty much said that he was Marduk, and Marduk is way back.
Yes.
Yes, way back.
We'll talk about that a different night.
Yeah, way back. And then it talks about like all these like who arrived where, and she wrote all of these from the White House, right? And the thing is that it says right here, the Stratcom Omaha. Okay. The thing is, Stratcom Omaha, it's an underground bunker in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where Warren Buffett and 100 other bankers were secured during 9/11. Because Warren Buffett and all them were on it too. The amount of people that were involved in 9/11 would blow people's minds. I mean, you've got the Trilateral Commission, you have the Kissinger, you've got all the Bushes, because like you said, Marvin Bush was in charge of the all of that with the security of, because they had the seventh floor of the building 7 was that was their emergency that was their hub, their emergency their thing, and they were told to stand down by the red team.
Right.
And what that was and the worst part about all this is that this all was known well ahead of time, because it all fell under the whole Howard Lutnick's real-time wagering on event outcomes patent. In which case, with that
say
patent,
that again.
It's the Howard Lutnick's real-time wagering on event outcomes. Okay, it's a Canadian patent or Canadian Chinese patent, but it's 2460367A for alpha. And what it is they would have these, they call them junket rooms. They call them pig farm junket rooms and all that. Junket rooms where these high-end, like high-end people would go in, and when they were going to have, when a staged event was about to happen, they would go to these junket rooms. They had one under the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. That's why that got busted a long time ago, about a year and a half ago. And there were some basketball players involved too. And what they would do is they would go down there and they would make bets on all of these, like what would happen, like how many people would jump, how many firefighters would die. I mean, how many times, how long would it take from impact to complete free fall? I mean, they were making bets on all these. Because when you have all this money, what else is there to spend your money on?
Yeah, they have more money than they know what to do with. So it's a game. It literally, I hate
It's a game.
saying that, because obviously there's human lives involved and there's people that lost family, but people have to understand and realize that they literally have no use. Like they believe humans are the same as animals essentially, and so in their belief system, we are technically worthless, and so us, like, people dying means nothing to them.
But also, who also believes that? The Zionists.
Correct.
Because that's where the whole Zionist comes in. And yes, it is a game. It's the Illuminati card game. In which case we have all the cards and everything. And I mean, it has like Twin Towers, it has everything. It's just like, it's so just scary to even think about. And when you were mentioning about the cable, about the cable coming out of the one drone, the last drone that was flown into the plane. Well, what it had Lockheed Martin's rocket-boosted guided hard target penetrator equipped on it. And we had the patent number and everything. And it was used by Dr. Pamela Drew's colleagues, and that's at Serco, at Boeing Phantom Works, with guidance and control units on delivery aircraft to steer bomb dive lines into World Trade Center 1-2 on 9/11 and ignite explosives after target penetration. So what it would do is it would shoot, because what they did is they had those art students in there, and they put all these nanothermite wraps on all these columns, right? Now, what thermite is you have powdered aluminum and powdered rust. Now, you can have you can carry powdered aluminum, powdered rust, no problem. Once you have them together and have an ignition, you can bring down a building any size. I mean, it can level city blocks. That's why nanothermite was so big, and that's why after it all came down, they would show that it was like, you would see like liquid steel, like flowing, because it fuels itself. It's like it creates its own source, its own oxygen source, to feed itself. Because I started in '97, so I was 4 years in to ironworking, and I worked with a few of the guys that went out there to help, with the whole rescue and taking everything down, and all the ironwork, because all the ironworkers went out there and they pretty much cut it all up. And the one thing that was weird was that it wasn't even treated like a crime scene. They just wanted to cut it up and all that, but all the steel was all sent to China.
Right, correct.
And
it was done fast.
Oh, fast.
Well, like overnight.
Real fast. Yes. And the thing is, if you notice, in the 9/11 museum, they actually have a piece, like a column, from the I think it was the Tower 2, and it's shaped like a cross, right? Yep. So everybody's just like, it's cross. It's like it's
they're Saturnalia.
Mocking. Yes, it's a complete mockery. Everything that they do, it's just a complete mockery, just one after another, and it's hard to get in that mindset that you have to look at things like in a complete opposite way than what we were taught, because let's face it, everything that we were taught is completely wrong.
Right.
Everything.
Right.
That's why, like, for me, I tell people, I'm like, I don't have children, but I would not send them to public schools, because if you look at what they're teaching now, let's face it, I mean, there would be some hell to pay. I mean, there's no reason why they're teaching third graders what they're teaching them. And even any kind of sexual stuff in any kind of grade is, I'm sorry, but no. That should be between parents and a child because they know when they're ready, and it's like that's a personal thing. You know, that's just something that is just kept private.
Right.
It's just like public displays of affection. You know, I mean, I'm not big on it, but you know, it's like you see people. It's like, oh, they're just like, get a room, you know. But in Chicago, they have a gay pride parade, and we've worked around when they've had those, and we worked on tower cranes up there, and the stuff that these people take their kids to, they should not even be classified as parents because that kind of stuff. I mean, I was even sick by it, and I'm like, and I'm a grown man. I'm like, there's no way, you know, no, you don't even want to even discuss it because it's like it's so disgusting, and that's what it is. This whole
100%.
this whole 9/11 was all to push everything towards androgyny.
Yes.
That's why they only put up one World Trade Center, one tower, and they put the cubes in the ground. So then the names are all around it. So when you walk around it, you're worshiping Saturnalia, you know. And then with Tower 7, that's where they had the Chinese gold because there was a 99-year lease on this old Chinese gold that was in there, and it was about up. They actually had to, give it back to the Chinese dragon, to the dragon family, and they turned around and because I heard this from people that I worked with, and they even said it firsthand, and they wouldn't lie to me because there were more than one person even said they're like, yeah, it's real weird because once they hit a certain spot on Tower 7, they had everybody evacuate, and they had all these black trucks come in, like like bank trucks, like bank vault trucks.
Yep.
And they came in and they took all the gold. I mean, it was a huge gold heist. It was the largest live snuff film that was like in history shown on TV. So they wanted to get a high five for that. But the people that were involved were you had the Mossad, you had Israel, you had the Vatican, you had Great Britain.
Right.
Great Britain, England, United Kingdom. It's like, well, which name do you want to use now? Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is not Saudi Arabians, or they're not Arabic. They're
Right.
actually Jews. They're Wahhabi Jews.
Right.
And it's like because when they all got expelled from Israel, it's because they were all worshiping Satan. It's like that's where this whole thing started, was from when King David and God, when they made that pact, and this was in, this version of the story. And because all it is just versions passed down and down and down. So this was the Hebrew version that was written because the Sumerians had their version. So they, decoded it into their version. And it's all just the whole creation. It's like, we're just genetic procedures. That's all we are.
You gave me a perfect transition into the other email you sent me, which was the lies that NASA told. So are you cool with going on to that subject?
Yeah, I'm cool going on any subject.
So
you tell me.
So what I have up here, I'm going to share this screen. Now I'm going to warn people. I'm going to warn people right now, Jason. I'm going to warn people the stuff that they're about to hear could rock their world. Would you agree?
Yeah, and plus another thing is that none of this is said to like disrespect anybody or to do anything like that. It's like we're just trying to get the truth out there. That's all we're trying to do. This is what we found, and we've always because we went over this back in 2018, 19, 20, and because it started on Facebook, and then went over to Twitter in June of this year because I got a 30-day ban for something really stupid on Facebook. But I think that was all pre-planned. But how all this started was I was, kicked out of these groups on Facebook on, it was, in fact, I know the date was April 6th, 2018, and it was a Friday night, and I was kicked out of two groups. It was the QAnon Follow the White Rabbit public
Yes.
group, and the second group was QAnon Patriot group. And I was kicked out of both of them because of one topic: time travel.
Really?
And now
Like,
I'm just like, yeah. And everything that I posted, all that, you know, what I found, everything like that. And the one guy's like, you know, because his name was Doug. And the thing about me is that, you know, I'm nice to a point, but I mean, if somebody's gonna be a dick to me, like when they, you know, when they die or whatever, that doesn't make them a great person. They're still a dick, you know. And come to find out that this guy named Doug, because I called him Doug the Slug, because he never did anything. You know, that's all these people that are like, you know, higher ups in these groups. You never see them, you know, putting any information out there. They're the first ones to censor you, but they're not doing any of the work. And then he made me a mediator or whatever the hell it is. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, you know, we can't have that in here because it goes against the Bible. And I'm just like,
so I'm
like,
going to tell you, I'm going to tell you this right now, Jason. I'm going to tell
yeah,
you this right now. My prediction is that about 75% or more of the Anons out there, what I have read, and then I read your stuff, and your stuff, I have read some of it before, and then there was new stuff. 75% of the Nons out there are literally just in the political game of Q. They don't understand the very high level of literally we're changing a planet and it's actually a spiritual battle. They're just they're still sitting in this political thing. And so that's why I'm going to show this. We're going to go into it because this is key, right? And again, I told people it's going to challenge some belief systems, but this is stuff is what you need to know, because if you want to know how this goes forward, this is far deeper than just a political election in 2020. This is literally for the planet. This is for all the marbles, as you told me earlier. So I have up here the first picture, the lie that NASA told, and I'm going to bring this up, okay? And could you see it or no?
I can't. But one more thing. Now,
Yeah, go
remember in the
ahead.
beginning, when Q did say, he's like, the truth would put 99% of people in the hospital.
Right.
Now, there's only one thing that would do that. It's someone's belief system.
Correct.
I mean, when you take away somebody's belief system, you know, and that's the one thing I'll never understand. There, it's up now, but there's one thing I've never understood is that why do we have to believe in something instead of believing in ourselves? It's like, wouldn't it's always, it's like having a crutch. You know, it's like we would be so much better of a human civilization if we just understood that if we believed in ourselves, and instead of saying, oh, you know, like that person, like you'll see a homeless person like lying, you know, freezing, you know, it's like, oh, I'll pray for them. Well, if you have the ability to help them, why don't you help them?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, it's like, you know, get them a room for the night or something like that. It's like, you know, everybody falls on hard times.
Right.
Everybody does. You
Right.
know, it's like, you know, like you always say, you know, be the person, you know, help somebody tomorrow. You know, it's like everybody should be helping somebody every day. Learn something new every
100%.
day. Help
I
somebody every day, because you never know that it's going to come back to you, and you're going to need help, and you're not going to understand that you need help, but somebody's going to be there to help you, and that's
Amen,
it.
as someone said. 100, dude, you're 100%. I agree with you completely. Now, NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. You want to take us through this picture?
Uh, sure. Well, the thing is, when NASA came about, um, it came about in the 1950s by, you know, they had Werner von Braun, which
Yep.
was one of the top Nazi scientists that, you know, with the rockets and everything. And that all came over with, you know, Project Paperclip. And because Nixon was in that also. because Nixon was the one that, you know, documented all the Nazis that came in and, you know, put them in their places where they had to go. So Nixon knew a lot more than a lot of people knew. And the thing is that who became friends with Nixon after after he was after he was impeached, but he pretty much resigned? Donald John Trump. Because there's this video out there that says, it's like a 15-minute video, and it shocked me when after watching it. And Nixon had this it was a formula for free energy. It was all about magnetic, you know, across the plane of the earth, and he wrote it all out. I mean, it's like massive. And he folded up and he gave it to Kissinger. He's like, here, deliver this to them.
Right.
He's like, well, they already have a copy. He's like, I know, give that to them.
Wow.
But he wrote it by memory. So just to let them know, it's like, hey, if you screw with me, there you go. I'll let it loose. Right. And the thing is that there's still a letter on Trump's desk by Pat Nixon, Richard Nixon's wife, that says that you would be a great president because he had that formula.
Wow. Nice.
But under this, so because there was a NASA insider and everything, because they did lie about everything. You know, the space shuttle, it's an inflatable. It's a balloon. It's all it is. If you notice, when it launches, it doesn't launch straight up. It launches up and then it goes, you know, at a specific curve, and then it's out of view. Well, it goes off in the Bermuda Triangle, where they have, you know, boats that go out there and they pick it up, and, you know, it deflates and they bring it back.
Right.
I mean, there's been pictures that have been shown that, you know, that it is technically an inflatable, and plus they call it the yellow brick road. When you go up the stairs and all that, to the entranceway of the Challenger Columbia of the spaceship. And when the Challenger, because that was the one that supposedly exploded, correct?
Right.
Was the Challenger?
Yep. Challenger.
Okay. They followed the yellow brick road, which is a secret way down, where they had like kneel down and they had to go down this other way, because when it blew up, there was nobody in it. Because you've got this, you know, Susan Faye Resnick and all that. She's teaching it. I believe she's teaching at Harvard. She's even used her own name.
Right. There's also there's McAuliffe or whatever, is it Syracuse University or something like that?
Yeah, Krista McAuliffe.
Yeah, like,
and then you had
I mean, they look very similar.
Oh, all of them. And there's only one, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏. They didn't have him, like an updated picture, so he's probably could be dead. But all of them, it's like, you know, some of them took on a different name,
right?
The family name. But I mean, it's like, come on.
Now,
I mean, of course, the people.
Go ahead.
No, you're right.
No, well, so I'm looking at this, and this talks about Babylon, and it talks about them literally changing language. So and they also changed. So some people's minds are trapped. They have rewritten your history, given you false timeline, and this is done within the last 100 years by removing the COVID law that governs names. They were able to stretch your timeline by using the same images of the same people. What happened in Babylon wasn't a mystery. I actually read this the other day as well, but in from a different person, and basically saying that this is how they completely confuse everybody, because they changed the words. No one knows the original language. Correct?
Exactly. That's why they call it spelling.
Right.
When you put a spell on something. And also when they talk about coven law.
Yep.
Witches are in a coven. That's why whenever you see the State of the Union address, you see all those women dressed in white. It's all a coven. They're all a witch's coven. And that's why when the last one, when she ripped up the whole, ripped up the State of the Union address, she was actually going to, when he shook her hand, she was actually going to inject him with a poison.
Oh,
Nancy was. Yeah.
What?
But the thing is, what did he do? Yeah. But what he did was he's just like, nope. He just gave it to him. And remember, the thing is that because they were like, oh, yo, that's not an authentic, a document. I'm like, well, it actually is, because he only bought one. Because usually you give one to her, one to Pence, and he keeps one.
Right.
What he did was he just gave her one and just like, fuck off, spun around. And that's when he just went on a tirade, just said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and level the place. And it's just like, this is just great. And then that's when and that's when she had a little fit, and, she's looking over there and she's telling him when to clap and when not to clap. And the funny thing is, like, you look right behind him, I'm like, he's got, Pence has got a glass of water. She has like a full martini bar. It's like, she's like snackered on this. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I mean, she is just like, she's loaded.
I'm looking through the removed esoteric law. Nothing of the old may go forward. In each new world, you're given a new name. It takes us to Saxon, Sumerian, and Hebrew coven. And then the first 4 worlds, Lord's 𝗷𝗍𝗂 or Saul. Second world is Apsu. Third world, Anu. And fourth world, An or Set became Satan. This is literally it's almost like the planes of existence, man.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you have Alexander, and then you have Marduk,
yep,
which we already discussed. And then you have Azazel, which is the name of Satan. That's the technical name of Satan. And then you had the Tsar, Alexander Romanov, the Romanov. That's why they had the Romanov family. Remember, they were the family that were executed. And also, when you look at the Romanovs, 2 of the siblings, 2 of the children, they look identical to 2 people today. One of them is Melania Trump, and one of them is Barron Trump.
Whoa.
Yes.
Say that again?
Yeah. 2 of the Romanovs from the Romanov family. One of them looks exactly like Melania, and one of them looks exactly like Barron Trump.
You mean the 8-foot tall Barron Trump that, dude, I'm telling you right now, and you may have more information on this. Like, President Trump changed at some point when he went to Melania, and Barron is a freaking, you know what Barron reminds me of? Like, almost like Nephilim. Like, he's so freaking tall, and he's only, what, 16? I don't know how old he is. He's a teenager still.
Yeah.
I think more on that
myself.
What's that?
I personally think he's Thoth.
Say that again?
Thoth.
What is that?
Thoth is the one that wrote the Emerald Tablets.
Whoa.
50,000 years ago. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, let's face it, these people, we love them as humans, but they're not human. They're here for a reason.
Wow.
So when they talk about Q, it's a quasar. President Trump is a Q3 and a Q5. It's a quasar.
Give us background on that, because you're telling me new stuff that I need to understand as well.
I know, because of course I've got to spring it on you. I don't mean to, but
No, it's okay.
The stuff just comes up, and I'm just like, well, of course, it's just like having a conversation with me, because I knew that it would be like this, having a being on a channel that it'd be like just complete mayhem. Oh, 1 second, I've got it.
So I'm gonna read this off. I'm gonna read this off to people while you're doing it. Okay, so
go right ahead.
And I'm gonna mispronounce these words, but it doesn't matter. So al, eel are Latin suffixes for good, or L. Sorry, the L enters 33 or 33rd degree line. In Babylon, they were called Ilu, Ili, and Illumai. Okay. The origin of coven is Illuminati, listed as both alien and demonic. I believe if Kennedy lived, he would have warned us about what the royals and the priesthood had done. He caught the Rothschild companies store system, and then he caught on the Bilderberg. He then demanded from NASA an answer to who the Greys were and why they were here, and that is why they killed him. For a full detail of the history at a slower pace and better image quality, look for the corresponding video, Mystery Babylon No More. The trick of the altered timeline is to make you think that this was thousands of years ago. It was not. So are you saying that Trump was third and fifth dimension?
No.
No. Okay.
What a Q3 and a Q5 is. Remember when you mentioned string theory, correct?
Yes. Yep.
In an earlier discussion we had?
Yes.
Well, yep. There are a bunch of theories, right? Here's the quantum theory with string theory, and then we have plan theory. Because I mean, we'll go through all this, but I found this one. It's called text. Now it has in brackets a C, like a kill box, and it was written in 1992 by 𝗪𝗏 𝗪𝗏, right? Now it says distribution worldwide, distribution code 𝗪𝗏𝗄𝗃, and it says the title of this work is simply text. For years, there have been basically two sets of books kept on planet Earth. The set for the elite were called textbooks, and they contained the truth. The set of books for ordinary people were known, in brackets, to the elite as X dash text, like letter X, which means bad text or text filled with disinformation and propaganda with just a tiny bit of real truth to give them some sense of credibility. This book is in for real text format, and is not just for the elite, it is for everyone. For all the humans living on Earth everywhere without regard to caste or race or sex or anything else. This has not been done before, and author must confess that he went through a good bit of interference from various sources in the process of preparing this book, which has been his life's work. Therefore, I trust that his generations who will use this book will share with me some of the joy and fulfillment that I have experienced in the process of preparing this material. Now, I'll be honest with you, going through this, it has had me floored. And not a lot of times can, I just like, well, great, that's just another part of it. But once you see something that when we talk about planes, different planes, it's weird because we have like the state of consciousness codes, right? They call them the symbol codes,
right?
And they correspond to the plane number. The mental plane is at a symbol code index 4000. The causal plane is at index 300. The astral plane is at 200 or 2000, not 3000. The astral plane is at 2000. The physical plane is at 1000. And at 5000, we have left the domain of space/time and entered the first spiritual plane. So in this whole, I'm going to try to find a way to actually, send this in like a form where everybody can read it, because I mean, it's a lot of reading, and I know a lot of people get bored easy. They don't want to read. They think they want to just hand it to them, but there's a reason why they want us to learn all this, because, and this goes back to George Washington. George Washington, he would pray all the time, and he'd get on his knees crying and everything like that, because he wanted what was best for the Republic, and he was hoping that the Republic would never fall.
Right.
So there was an angel that would come and, take him and show him. And there were two things that this angel would tell him. He would tell him to look and learn at what he would see. And that's why when you see in these Q drops, you see look and learn a lot. So it's like, there's a reason why we're going through this, and we have to go through this. Why they can't just tell us.
Right.
Because we have to learn so that when we do advance, we can never let this happen again. Ever. None of this.
Right.
because some of the stuff that people don't even know about. I mean, we need to know what the cause was, what started this. And once you see it, throws up a red flag. You're like, no, we can't do that. No, that happened last time. Not at all. And it's something that we all should do as not just Americans, but patriotic Americans, but as humanity as well. Humanity as a whole in the world, because there are some that aren't human. There are, they're called humanoids, and they're just fill-ins.
Right.
I hate to break it to some people, but not everybody's real. It's just not it. And the thing is with there's a sexual index code, right? Because where all this messed up was by the whole male and female, right?
Right.
Because you have a masculine and a feminine.
Correct.
Right? There's like 0 on a masculine scale is like way masculine, and 10 on a feminine scale is like way feminine.
Right.
But 5 is neutral, right? So you can go like way masculine and way feminine. Like if, like say you're, because you want to find balance.
Right.
Everything's from balance. Like that's why Trump, he does everything with balance. He doesn't favor any side, even though he knows that people are wrong. These people are wrong. He always has to, be neutral in everything because of who he is. And if you understand the sexual index code, then you'll understand like later on, because the whole Social Security code and how that was all created, that's all right here. And SSN, it actually interpreted to mean super secret number, not Social Security number. If you think about it, Social Security, that's socialism in itself.
Right.
And they show these different codes, and there's like color codes, light codes, and it says right here, like they say which letters are. It says Q is an O with a little tail leading out of the closed space inside of the O. So Q symbolizes a closed space with a way out. What this closed space consists of and where the way out leads to and leaves you are determined by which reflection or octave of universal truth you're operating on. For a young child, a Q clearance might be something as simple as the ability to leave its house. Getting a bit more sophisticated, looking at the universe system horizontally, we could say a Q clearance was the ability to leave the Earth and travel into deep space. Looking at the universe system vertically, a Q clearance would then become the ability to travel to another plane of existence. In the United States, a U.S. government Q clearance means the ability to access the truth in as much as the government knows the truth to be. Knowledge of this truth would cause the average American to become disillusioned with the United States, and therefore, for the good of the economy, the truth is restricted. Finally, the absolute meaning of Q clearance is the ability to leave your body as a naked soul, which is really all that you actually are, and travel through the 11 planes and reach the 12th plane called the Anami region, ANAMI region, where the true and ultimate God, the Father of your soul, lives. And that's what Q is. Because everybody's wondering what Q means this, Q means that. There's, so many things that, Q is, and people say, well, Q is JFK Jr. It's like, no. It's like
No,
Q is so many different, much higher than that. But the whole thing is that everybody's been so hung up on the whole JFK Jr. that they don't realize that, well, what about his brother?
His brother?
Yeah. Patrick Bouvier Kennedy.
That's new to me.
there was one that lived. That's where biblical comes in as well. That's where Red October and all that. That's where the whole ventilators come in. That's why they keep on mentioning ventilators. That's why it's a big part of this, because of the whole 𝗩𝗶𝗱𝗄𝗂. Let me grab a quick. I know this is.
It's okay. It's okay. So I'm going to read this. So when earth fell in battle, we were pulled to the eye, to an area that sits below heaven. We are fallen. This area is the abyss, which is their territory. This is why the branches of Set make all the laws for this area of space. As the war continued, and the others continue to capture mankind by use of the 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝘃 and insert them into this area. From Sumerian law passed to the Hebrew, it was the custom of the covenant to be a 𝗪𝗁𝗍𝗂. By law, the seed, the priest, and the priestess were blood related and must be the bloodline of the founding family that made the blood pact with the families of Set and created the covenant. The 𝗏𝗃 or Baal were responsible as overseers of the harvest of children from the human slave population as a food source for the Moloch race of Lilith. Another name for them is Jersey Devil. Jeez.
Lilith is in fact Hillary Clinton.
Dude, I've read that and I didn't fully understand it when I read that before. That was a Hillary Trump battle.
Yeah, well,
that was a biblical battle.
Well, and there's a reason why the biblical battle was put on, is because the whole Jesus Christ of being sacrificed on a cross. He didn't, and this is, and
I know this is where everyone's gonna be challenged. It's almost 11. It's almost 11 o'clock, guys.
Yep.
So deal with it.
Forgive me, people, for this, because sorry that I have to break it to you, but he didn't die for your sins. What happened was, Jesus of the Christ, because it's an office, it's not a title, it's just an office. That's all it is. Now, what it was he was sacrificed by King Solomon to the Babylonian moon god, whose name happened to be Sin. That's why when they want to call you an anti-Semite and all this, has anybody ever looked into the Semitic religion? I'll be the first one to tell you that I am a complete anti-Semite, because the Semitic religion is complete satanic. That's why when they want to say everybody in Israel, it's like, oh, you're being an anti-Semite. They want to throw that in you. It's like, oh, we're sorry, we want to peace you. It's like, whoa. Wait a second. Who started World War II in 1933? It was Judea, right?
Right.
Now, the thing is that you had two kingdoms. In the beginning, you had the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah, right? Now, when you think about that, when you think two kingdoms, United Kingdom, who also has the name United Kingdom right now? Same one that has Israel. I mean, same one that has England. Same one that has Great Britain. I mean, they're all the same. They're all Nazis. Because it's the Ashkenazi Jews.
That's correct.
It's the ones that came from the Russian part and all that. And how do we know that they try to control us? We have it all right here. Who controls America? Every corporation, every part of government, everything. It shows like the Carlyle Group, everything. Who controls Wall Street? Who controls the Federal Reserve? Who controls television? Who controls the State Department? All this, the Group of 30, who's behind the climate change hoax, and it is a hoax. Who controls the American Civil Liberties Union? And I even color coded it with the Ashkenazi Jews being like a light blue, white Europeans being pink. The names are always orange. And you see how many of these people have infiltrated all this for the Ashkenazi Jews for the whole protocols of Zion. That's why the FBI let that out. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
They actually dropped that, and they were like, "Hey, we're sorry, we didn't, lead on to what this meant." It's like, oh, we know what it meant. We know exactly what it meant, but it's just sad because like all these people that think that they're Jews, but it's just a religion. It's
Right.
not a nationality. You're not, now you could say Israelite, and that would be that you were from Israel. I'm I'm of Polish descent, but I'm an American.
Right.
Never been to Poland, nothing like that. So I'm an American. That's it. When people say, "Well, you're Polish American," I'm like, no, I'm not hyphened. I'm American. That's it.
Right.
This is where I born. This is where I'm gonna die. Everything. Well, we're not gonna die, so that comes from another whole complete.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, that's gonna be a whole nother. People are gonna be like,
I know. We'll drop that next time.
Yeah, but the best part is that like I see the time up in the corner. I'm like, wow. I'm like, we didn't even scratch the surface on this. But I just want everybody to know that it's like there's a reason why we have to go all the way back to this and bring it all up to this, because if we don't know where it all started or where it all began, we won't understand why everything is how it is today. It's
100%.
like even if you look at a map, and you look at a map at New York, there's actually a canyon that runs right to Long Island called Babylon Canyon.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And the funny thing is that if Israel and the Germans were so like hate, if they were so worried about killing 6 million of them, which the numbers do not pan out at all. Germany built 3 nuclear-ready submarines for Israel and paid for 2 of them, right?
Right.
Israel named one of them Leviathan. Now, this just, I just want everybody to know, the whole Bible community, all that. And plus, if you're a big buff in the Bible, you cannot be a Globie. Cannot. Because
Globie.
if you are,
you call it a Globie.
You missed it. Globie. They're Globies. Because, you missed the first chapter. It's all right there. They talk about the corners of the earth and everything. They even talk, separate the waters from the waters. It's like, guys, it's a firmament. Even Wernher von Braun had Psalms 19, I think it's 19 colon 2, these 2, where it talks about firmament. Even the head of NASA went out, because they have to go out with karmic law, right? Just so that they think that, they're okay then. That's what he did. On his headstone, it's right on it. I could send you the picture. You can post it next week, or whenever we do this next. Because we could do this once a week, couple times a week.
We'll have to do it. A couple times a week. We'll have to do it where we just go with it, because there's so much information. So do me a favor. I know you were going to tell us about the ventilators, and was it Kennedy?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
They're asking about that, and then we'll figure out a way. We won't get to all this tonight, but we'll come back with more stuff, obviously.
Because I can't find it right now. Just kidding. I got it. And it has been 100% verified too. So that's the good part. Let me
so I'm showing you here, which is The Baphomet symbol, the Pentagon, the one that the DNC used for their logo, and it's got five corners. Saturnus saw Satan, Goldman Sachs, the Gad family, Mars, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗀, Freemasons, Queen Elizabeth, Mercurius, the 𝗩𝗁𝗐𝗻, the 𝗓𝗵𝗶𝗀. Yeah, 𝗩𝗁𝗐𝗻. Jupiter is 𝗓𝗏, who Anunnaki, Federal Rothschild. Venus, Lilith, Israel Rockefeller, which was Hillary Clinton. Orion, star system. Owl symbol Satan. OASON is father of the branch of reptiles, ruler of the abyss, Awan and underworld. Lilith, Isis is queen of Moloch. And then the rest of them you can read. NASA is owned by Elizabeth and Rothschild. It is a Vatican charter. UN equals Uranus plus Neptune. I have a feeling that my good friend, Dr. Tina St. John, is going to love this because she understands the astrology behind all of this and how crazy it is and what it actually lines up to. And this also, if you want evidence of this, I mean, this is actually, none of this is just made up. This is stuff you can actually go look up. And honestly, some of this stuff, you can even just go look at David Icke stuff. And I don't know if David Icke is fully legit. Like, I still think he's a little bit controlled opposition. I think he's like 90% factual, 10% throws it off. But even he talks about this. I mean, the Nazi symbol is a symbol of Saturn. As I read and dug deep, they are not worshiping Satan as we have been told what Satan is. They are worshiping Saturn. That is what they're worshiping. They are worshiping astrology. They're worshiping different things. Now, there's also beings that have come from those places, and that's a whole other story, which I don't know all of it, but that's what they're doing.
We got it.
Would you agree with some of that?
Yeah, we have that too.
Yeah.
We'll do that. I'll have that for next time.
That's fine.
All that stuff.
We're gonna finish off with this this Kennedy thing, ventilators you're talking about, and then the last thing I want you to do is we'll summarize. We won't go deep into it, but we'll summarize a little bit of the flat Earth flipping up into the next dimension, and the fact that I'll drop this bomb that we're not going to go into fully tonight because we won't have time, but the fact that we are not actually seeing the real sun during the day. We're seeing a simulated sun, which he blew my mind with that today, and I don't still fully understand the whole thing, but we're going into the new world, not a new world order, but a new world where we'll get our correct sun back. That sounds weird saying, Jason.
Well, it does, but the thing is what that light is going to do is the light is going to put together all of our DNA,
right?
"Quote unquote" junk DNA. The 97% that they say is junk, it's not junk. It's it's actually it's there for a purpose, and that's why they created this whole 23andMe. And they've been forcing, getting all these all this DNA from people because they're missing 5 genomes to perfect a complete strand of a human genome.
Right.
With the manifestation. Resurrection technology, because we do have that technology built into us.
Yep.
That's why, Jesus, he didn't, just all of a sudden just appear out of nowhere. He had the resurrection tech built into him. And here we go.
So what I was saying is, and he'll clarify this, but Lockheed Martin has the patent for a simulated sun which is what you are seeing on a quote unquote daily basis. And our real sun has been kept from us. And our real sun actually will heal, has healing technology in it, and it will actually straighten out the DNA properly. And yeah, that's I dare me, Jason, to walk outside to the public tomorrow on somebody on the street and say, yeah, by the way, the sun that you see up in the sky there, yeah, that's actually a simulated sun. And that's not your real sun. And at some point we're going to get our sun back.
Well, and if there's anybody that anybody wants to thank, let them thank my mother. Because if it was, well, number one, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to do all this. Number two, I know she could have had me committed at any given time.
Yes. God bless, bless Jason Q's mom for not committing him to the Baker Act.
I mean, I mean, she has just been, you know, biggest supporter, and just, I mean, she's like, you know, like everybody, you know, has that best friend, and it's like, I don't go out in the public because I just have no reason to. You know, if I go out, that's because I just, you know, everybody that I actually want to associate with is everybody online, all the Patriots online.
I agree.
Because everybody, like, around here, they're all liberals and, you know, other names that I just don't want to say because it's we'll just call it a family show. But yeah. So we will go to the Patrick Bouvier Kennedy. Now, the thing is that there was an article. It was published in the Look magazine. The magazine was called Look, right?
Okay.
And it was 3 days before the JFK's inauguration. Look magazine had published an article by Fletcher Knebel titled "What You Don't Know About Kennedy." It portrays the president-elect as appealingly human and forbiddenly smart, as well as a notorious moocher who seldom carried cash. Readers also learned that he seldom exploded in anger, was repelled by anything corny, demanded privacy, possessed not a sliver of snobbishness, could be thin-skinned, and used profanity with the unconcern of a sailor. So, I love that part of him. But the anything corny, why it was in quotes. Now, in all the 302s that were signed, James Comey never signed his real name. He signed James Corney.
Really?
Yeah. He's been on our side the whole time.
I've heard of that.
Mueller, Rosenstein. I mean, we have their military tribunal also. We have a copy of that. So the thing is that when all of this, you know, when reading all this, there's a thing about, like, because Jackie, she had the first baby she miscarried, but since they were Catholic, they couldn't name, you know, they didn't name, you know, they don't name babies, you know, until they're born.
Okay.
But she named her Arabella. Bell. Do you notice where we go on, we go all? It's always on a bell.
The bell.
See? Yes. And not to mention, so she was conceived in 1955 and was alive for many months, but she died from her mother having a miscarriage on August 23rd, 1956. She was buried next to her brother's father, mother, and uncle, but because she was miscarried, they didn't fully name. Because of this, her grave only says daughter, right? Now, the thing is that how this whole thing just baffles me with the dates. Because August 23rd, and it's nowhere wanting to be like arrogant or anything like that, any ego whatsoever. But It seems like everything stacks around August 25th. And that's my birthday, right? Well, the thing is that, you know, Delta 2, because Delta is 4, but it goes forward and backward. So it's 2 forward, 2 backward. So we're jumping timelines. So August 23rd, that's 2 days from that. So I'm just like, okay, now we're on to something. Now with Patrick, he was born on August 7th and died August 9th.
Okay,
right?
1 second. Let me stop you real quick.
Yep.
So the Kennedys lost a daughter. They called her Arabella, and Ivanka has an Arabella Rose Kushner.
Yes. And what was the name of JFK's mom? Rose.
Okay.
It's like this.
Keep going.
This whole thing. It just keeps on. It's so crazy. So the thing is that so then
I didn't mean to throw you off. Continue on.
Oh no, it's okay. So they had so on Wednesday, August 7th, Jackie Kennedy went in with labor pains, right? Well, the thing is that so Patrick was born on August 7th, which is 20 years to the day that JFK was rescued from his PT-109 when it was struck by a torpedo in World War II. Right? 20 years to the day, right? So he's just like, oh, my son's going to be born on the same day. And it's like, wow, But they said that because his August 7th was his 20th anniversary of the day the Navy rescued him in World War II, because he had spent 5 days marooned on an island in the Pacific. So he always kept a scale model of the boat on the shelf in the Oval Office of the PT-109 because he absolutely loved the 109, right? So if you notice, what is today?
September 11th.
Today's September 11th, right? What anniversary is it? It's the 19th anniversary.
Right.
Now, you put a 0 in there, 109, 19, because it's the same thing that would happen in May, right after Labor Day. Memorial Day. Because right after Memorial Day was the Tuesday, they had a string of, that's when they launched they were going to launch the rocket on the Wednesday, right? And Trump was there. He's like, I don't think today's a good day. It's like, let's make it for Saturday, And when did he call it? He called it a T-minus 17 minutes. Yes. And I'm like, this guy is a god. This guy he cannot stop trolling, like at all. So he made it for Saturday. So what was that? That was 1 day after President JFK's 103rd birthday. But what was on that rocket? They said it was supposed to go to get people off the International Space Station and swap them out and everything.
Right.
But the space station is actually in a pool in California. It's underwater. It's all CGI. It's all bullshit. Right?
Right.
So what it is that they actually had a virus put on this rocket. And it was called the 𝗓𝗵𝗶. And they were going to launch it on that Wednesday. Well, they turned around and said, well, we're going to change it. So they changed it to Saturday, right? Saturn Day.
Saturn Day.
He just wants to
trolling the hell out.
Exactly. So when they launched it, what was on it? See, now this is just from my thinking and everything, because when they get these people, these reptilians, they have to behead them, because they already had the 30,000 guillotines waiting for us, right? So it's like, well, in order to do this, in order to kill the vril from these reptilians, you have to disconnect them from the host. So you have to cut the head off.
Right.
So what's the best way of doing it? You take all the heads, you freeze them, you cryogenically freeze them, you load them up in a rocket, and with Elon Musk, which, let's face it, even seeing some of the interviews that he's had, he's not real. He has the genetics of Nikola Tesla, because he's still alive. Just like Marconi, just like all these other guys. Because it was Marconi, and Marconi started it, and it was him and Tesla with 96 other scientists. They went to Venezuela. It was in a crater underground, right? And it's all self-sufficient. They don't have to go above ground for anything. And they can actually, you know, they've been to the moon, they've been to Mars and all this other stuff. And that was back in 1930s. They had this. Well, they took 90 of the greatest minds and they wanted to develop all the technology for the golden age that we're getting ready to get into. Because if people think that the aliens are going to bring us all this stuff, there's no way. Because if you think about it, just the language barriers that we would have, that would take an easy 200-300 years there.
Right.
Because you have Portuguese, you have Spanish, you have, with slang, with everything. But with all these different scientists, them already knowing the language, there you go. But the thing is that they found out how to, because remember, we're biologically immortal entities. They found out the real way of us regaining immortality. And it's by radiant energy. It's by light. It's a specific kind of light that puts all of our DNA back together, which has all of the resurrection tech and everything like that built into it. Because we're not human beings. We're human beings now, but we're carbon-based. But what we're going to do is we're actually going from carbon-based to crystal-based. So we will become the star people. We will become celestial beings. That's why all these, UFOs and entities and all that, that's why they're all above us right now. They're all cloaked, over 2 million ships. They're all cloaked, cheering us on. They have everybody aboard. Everybody, they're waiting to make first contact. But they have to make sure that we're ready. Because let's face it.
I'm not laughing because I don't believe it. I believe it.
Walking up the driveway.
It's so mind blowing. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
Yes, it is. So
back to Patrick Bouvier.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But what's the first thing we do? Uh-oh.
You there?
You there? Okay, for some reason it went. Yeah.
Keep going. You're good.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yep. Okay, back to Bouvier Kennedy, because we'll talk about that later. I know people ask questions about it. So at 11:43 a.m. on August 7th, that's when President's Secretary Evelyn Lincoln, told Kennedy that Jackie had gone into premature labor. And he's like, no way in God's earth. My child is being born 20 years to the day that I was rescued. A coincidence providing an additional emotional dimension to a day that it would be amongst the most traumatic of his life. So the thing is that he was born 5.5 weeks prematurely. That would be 5'5". Because if you think about it, 5 and 10, right? So
right.
Thing is that shortly after it, he developed symptoms of hyaline membrane disease, now called infant respiratory distress syndrome, right? So he was quickly baptized with the name of Patrick after his grandfather, Joseph Patrick Kennedy, and great-grandfather, Patrick Joseph Kennedy, and Bouvier for his mother's maiden name. So he was sent to Boston Children's Hospital, and he was kept in a hyperbaric chamber, right? Now, the hyperbaric chamber was actually, it looked like a submarine, like a mini submarine. It was like 30 feet long.
Yep.
So that's where you think about, like, okay, Red October, but that's just one form of it. So, because it was filled with 100% oxygen and pressurized to greater than 1 atmosphere. So at that time, it was revolutionary. So it was like one of the newest things that they had. Well, Kennedy died at 4:04 a.m. at August 9th, despite a desperate medical effort to save him. He lived 39 hours and 12 minutes, right? and President Kennedy was with him the whole time, right? And I mean, this is how big of a heart the guy had. He was actually, there was another mother there because there was a child that was burned and all that, and he wanted to know what happened and all that, and he wrote a personalized letter to this mother after his son just died, saying that, you know, God will be with your son and all that, you know, God be with you and everything like that. Like, he actually cared about other people even after this happened. Well, the thing is that now it says legacy. Oh, but here's the good thing. Now this thing is just, it's so just mind blowing that it just, you just gotta just think, no. So he was initially buried at Holyhood Cemetery in Brookline, Massachusetts, the president's hometown. His body and that of a stillborn sister, whom Jacqueline Kennedy called Arabella, were reinterred on December 5th, 1963, alongside their father at Arlington National Cemetery, and later again moved to their permanent grave sites in section 45, grid U35. I'm like, okay, so right there you have the D5, right? December 5th. Then you have, they were buried next to their father. Their permanent graves are section 45, which is Trump. Grid U35, that was Kennedy, 45 and 35.
Right.
And then it says, Kennedy's death made 1963 a pivotal year for neonatology, still a relatively new field at the time, according to an examination of the field's history in the journal Neonatology, you know, study of newborns and children. Increased public awareness of HMD led to a corresponding increase in research of the disease, spurring development of new medical ventilators, blood gas tests, and newborn intensive care practices in both the United States and Europe. Medical ventilators. Now, the funny thing is that it says, in a review of advances in clinical medicine, researcher Thor Hansen observed that the medical profession did not have the tools to help Kennedy, the newborn son of arguably the most powerful man in the world, but that 50 years later, treatment of his condition would be considered routine and survival expected. Now, researcher Thor Hansen, that would be Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor is the one that gave the cube, what's the name of the cube? Why is it? He gave the cube. I'll remember in a second. But he gave a cube to Eisenhower because what he did was, because he was extraterrestrial, they came down and they wanted to help all Earthlings with all the diseases, help with the diseases, no more wars, everything like this, because they knew that Earth was destroyed many times over nuclear wars, electric wars, and all that, and they couldn't withstand another one. So they came down in good faith, and they're like, hey, you know, we want to help you with all this. So what happens? Here comes the Joint Chiefs of Staff of Eisenhower being a total dick and saying, oh, no, you know, you don't belong here. You get out of here, and, you know, don't come back here again. And it's like, this guy's just like, you don't even know who this guy is. He just came in on a flying saucer. And he's offering to help. And you're going to be a dick to him. And then he's like, well, hopefully you don't expect to go to space or anything like that. So that's when the whole secret space program started. That's when Eisenhower knew about this whole military, military complex, the industrial complex.
Exactly.
Because they were like, well, we want some of that technology, because they had one crash and they actually kept them alive long enough, and they tortured him. They tortured an extraterrestrial that was here for peace.
Yep, I've heard
and it's
that.
just like it's insane, the things that these people did. But for this researcher Thor Hansen to come out and say, but 50 years later, treatment of this condition would be considered routine and survival expected, it's like, So you're going to tell me in 63, add 50 years, you got what, 2013? So it's like, right then and there. It's like, then what happened? It's like 2013 was like when shit was going to hit the fan. And that's why they had to perform a military silent coup on Obama in 2015 to get him out. And they had the Marines running the ship from May of 2016 to the election.
Wow. So
because he had General Dunford.
So let me add to that. Isn't it interesting that one of the task force members for Trump was a pediatrician, and no one could figure out why a pediatrician was on the COVID task force. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
one of the task force members, the older gentleman, white short hair, that came out. He's military, and he is a pediatrician working with ventilators.
Wow. Oh my God. It's almost like it never ends. It doesn't.
And then again, and we're gonna conclude soon because I'm wearing down. And I want to get you some rest in it as well. But also, it's interesting because Ivanka has a daughter, Arabella, which is very fascinating. But on top of that, I looked up Look magazine, right? And guess who one of the first photographer illustrators for Look magazine was? Stanley Kubrick.
Huh.
That Stanley Kubrick was a photographer for Look magazine and an illustrator. There you go.
I mean, honestly, it's just when they said it is they're going to make it mathematically impossible for this to just not be a coincidence. I mean, they literally meant it.
So,
I mean,
are Patrick and Junior alive, do you think? What's your final thought on that?
Yes. 100% yes. So a senior.
Senior. So JFK Senior, JFK Junior, and Patrick are all still alive in your mind?
Yes. Not in my mind. In actuality, I mean, they are actually alive.
So do me a favor. As you paraphrase, do like 5 minutes and then we'll end. What do you see? And we're going to go into deeper stuff as we go through the weeks because you have to know more information. How do you see this playing out in the next couple months? What happens?
Trump is going to resign.
He's going to resign?
He has to resign.
When?
I'm guessing he's going to resign October 3rd.
Of this year?
Because that's exactly 30 days. Yes, because the thing is that under 𝗪𝗏, that is one of the key deals with 𝗪𝗏 is because they have to have a special election. That's why they talk about all this mail-in voting. They have no idea the pile of shit that they just stepped in. Because everybody, I mean.
So the October surprise is basically the reset of
it's going to be 𝗪𝗏.
And with 𝗪𝗏, they have to have a new election.
And the new election has to be within 120 days of his resignation. So why would you change the date of the election? You're going to still have it on 11/3. But the thing is that if you wait if he resigns on 10/3 and it's like 10/3, 103rd, whose birthday? 103rd? JFK's 103. See, everything runs by numbers. 10/3, and they said exactly 30, right? For Flynn.
Does he publicly resign, or is it kind of like it just happens in the background?
No, he's gonna publicly resign because somebody's gonna step in, and they already said who's gonna step in.
Who?
Because they call him the People's General. It's Flynn. Flynn's gonna be the president for 30 days.
How the hell? Okay, how the hell does
See,
that? So explain explain this
okay,
now.
okay. The thing is that why Flynn is getting the runaround for all this, right? With this judge, right? This judge is very, very special. He's not a dick. This
Sullivan.
guy is actually Sullivan, Emmett Sullivan. He is actually playing a part, and he is huge in this. He's huge in the vaccination part because he's the one
Yep,
that
I've read
wrote
that.
2 things on it about the vaccinations of the soldiers, and he even wrote a 34-page um, uh, 34-page deal on the whole thing. It's like 3 plus 4 is 7. It's like, God, these guys can't go away from these numbers. So it's like they're just dragging on because under the original Constitution, our other Constitution that we're going to go back to,
Yep.
it's called 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗧𝗏, right? It means that if it goes to this judge and he's already judged this way on this specific subject, he can't change his mind. So he's already judged twice on it.
Right.
What are the numbers? 369. So this would be the third judgment for him. So it's almost like they're playing this big. It's this whole play that what they're trying to do is, you know how they're like, oh well, they want to make mandatory vaccinations. That's totally BS. Anybody that
Right.
believes that, take the masks off. You don't need the masks. That's all garbage. It's all satanic. It's all to keep your mouth covered so you don't have a voice. It's easier to take kids. You just put tape over their mouth, no, seriously, they can
I
take kids
know.
like that.
I'm not
And put
laughing
like
at
that.
you.
Put it.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm
It's
laughing at the
really sad.
comments. I'm laughing
Yeah.
at the
Oh,
comments.
see, I can't see the comments, and you can. I can only
Sorry.
imagine the comments.
No,
Oh,
I'm not laughing at children in mass. It's child abuse. I'm laughing at the comments because of
I need to have tape over my mouth.
there's a
That would
little
be a good one.
there's a little delay in our feed that's live versus you and I talking right now. So when I see the comments roll through of what you just said, they're absolutely hysterical. But no, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Well, go figure. So
So go ahead.
here's the thing. Okay, now remember when they said that we have a special place for George, a very special place, right?
Yeah.
For GS, right?
Yeah.
GS had dots under it, means multiple meanings, right? Now, on August 14th, 1963, there was one letter written, and it was post 3:30, right? December 11th, 2017 at 12:44:10 p.m. 12 hours, 44 minutes, 10 seconds p.m. It says, we have a special pace picked out for GS. Really special. Q. Now, post 3:30, think 33, right? Total Illuminati. Now, you think December 11th, that goes with, you have 11:3, 11:4 is actionable, and then you have 11:5. There was one letter written to George and Pat Skakel, right? It says, you were kind indeed to think of us at this very difficult time. Your message was a comfort to me and my family, and we are very grateful to you. Sincerely, President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. Now, the thing is, we have a very special place picked out for GS, really special. George Skakel, right? So,
Okay.
where has Patrick Bouvier Kennedy been? Has he been a Skakel the whole time? And now he's getting ready to come out as a. Because remember, they always called Camelot, right?
Yeah.
They called Trump, not Trump, but Kennedy, Camelot and everything like this, the King of Camelot. Well, they already knew that they were going to be gunning after his son, John.
Right.
They already knew that. So they're like, well, what better way to go biblical than to use the whole story of Moses? Remember when they put the baby in the bushes and put him right along the water? It's like, oh, okay, well, oh, look, fun little baby. We're just going to go and raise it and everything. It's all biblical. They're doing it. I mean, doing this. The storyline is just following all the way down.
Dude.
But the thing is that to actually get to this point, I mean, there was a lot of time put into it. but it's not just me, it's all of us. Because I don't want people to think, oh, well, that's why I really didn't want to do podcasts and anything like that, because I didn't want people to think that like it was like some kind of ego thing for me. Because you see some of the so many people with podcasts now, you see how their heads get like this, and then it's just like this. That's why it's like with yours, it's like so down to earth. That's why it's like, yeah, I'll go in there, sure, no problem.
So he resigns on October 3rd.
Yes, resigns on October 3rd. Then here comes General Flynn, because he's retired. So now he can actually hold office. So he could come in with that beautiful flamethrower and just take everything down. And then they're going to have the election. Well, the election is going to have Donald John Trump on it, right? Well, who in their right state of mind is going to vote for anybody else? The man just paid off all your debt. He paid off all your houses. He paid off all your cars. He paid off all your credit cards. He just got rid of the whole income, the whole IRS. He got rid of the Federal Reserve. I mean, the man has done more in the 3 or 4 years that he's been president than anybody's ever done. And look who he has on his back. Oh, and he's battling Satan too. So I mean, you got that going for you too.
So he drops 𝗪𝗫. He drops 𝗪𝗫 before the election, which is essentially, it's basically just one gigantic October surprise.
That's a Trump card. That's a Trump card. Because the thing is that that's what Snowden fits in. Because where was Snowden?
He's in
Russia. Because the thing is that everybody thinks that Snowden was a traitor. He wasn't.
No, he has everything. They said, he had access to everything.
Who else had access to everything? His grandfather. They said, look to his bloodline. His grandfather was Rear Admiral Edward Barrett. He held the same exact spots as Edward Snowden did. He's the one that got him the job at Booz Allen Hamilton.
Okay.
Because the thing is that his grandfather went through because he was a flag flag officer.
Okay.
So because he was an admiral, and so was Thad Allen. So Thad Allen, he got him the job. He's like, hey man, hey, can you help him out? I was like, yeah, no problem. So he got all this information, all these computers, everything. Why do you go to Russia? There's only one reason he'd go to Russia, is because that's the only place the CIA cannot look at the information on the internet. Because Russia is the only country that has their own internet. And who's with them? You got Seth Rich. You got Edward Snowden. You have his grandfather. You've got John Perry Barlow and all this. And what are they doing? Well, who else is going to do the other 202 countries, get them online for 𝗪𝗪? Because once 𝗪𝗪 hits, 𝗪𝗪's got to hit. So how are they going to have all of this just flow into it when you have all these countries? Like, well, what are these countries going to do? You have them all online at the same time. You have them all documented. Just be like, boom. So it's a shotgun start. They're going to have the RV. Should be starting any day now. Once the RV hits, that's the first part. And then you'll have the 𝗪𝗫. And then right after 𝗪𝗫, 𝗪𝗪 starts.
Dude, I pray that this is all correct.
Well, it's documented too, so I mean, it's all time-stamped, everything. I mean, you ought to see if people go back on the whole Facebook and all that. I mean, we had it that Trump was the officer of the Christ back in, figured out on his birthday, June 14th of 2018, as at 5 a.m. And I literally almost freaked out. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because everything, that's when you realize that he was a twin. Because there's always twins. And who are the two Geminis? It's Trump and JFK. Not Junior, JFK Senior. And the thing is that you had God always killed one and he kept one. Well, the one they killed, well, yeah, they killed the real one. But what did they do? We just went ahead and went back in time, replaced it with a clone. That's what came out of his head, was a server. Because when anybody takes a shot from the storm drain, that finishing shot, and was it 30 feet away, 35 feet away, and you shoot like a watermelon. You shoot something like that, and you see something that big come out of the head, people are like, oh, it's a piece of his skull. I'm like, have you ever shot a watermelon? It's the same thing. It's like there would be nothing left. And you're going to tell me that, oh, well, she just happened to just, oh, I better get back there and get that. Oh, yeah. Any widow's going to be like, oh, I want to save a piece of my husband's skull. Fucking stupid. Come on. I mean.
So Flynn's in. We have a new election, and President Trump is the last president of the Corporation of America, and he is the first president of the restored American Republic.
Yes.
Dude, I'm going to end it there. Is that okay?
That's fine. And then yeah, just let me know. Because if it's easier for you to do the night ones, we could do the night ones. Then, you could just go on till whenever or whenever you're tired.
We will do, let me try this. We'll do next week. We'll do a night one next week, and I'll do it so that we have plenty of time to do it with. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Everyone, everyone loves it.
Thank you for, well, I mean, I appreciate everybody too, because this is, everybody's helping on this, whether they realize it or not. It's the complete, it's the whole, it's everyone. That's how it's the whole, the consciousness. Right. It's everyone's consciousness in on this, and we're all here for a reason. We're all here on the winning side, but we had to learn. There's a reason why we're here, why we're teaching this and everything, because there had to be teachers, scribes, all this other stuff, and that's why they wanted it documented. They said one of the rules is like, hey, make sure this is documented on pad of paper and everything like that, and offline, because once they zap everything, everything's gone. So we got that covered. So don't come burn my house down. Just don't do it, because don't. That'd be bad.
But actually, so I'm actually going to let everyone know, and I'll figure out how to do this. But I actually also have a printer coming, the same printer that Jason has, and we're going to find a way. I think what we're going to do, Jason, while we're here, is I think I'm going to put together a little, like maybe a GoFundMe page or something like that for I wouldn't use
GoFundMe because that's all Masonic.
So I'll figure out how to do this, because what we need is I'm gonna find a way to get you a high volume color scanner, but those things aren't like a couple $100. They're several $1,000s, so that you can actually be scanning it without like having to like stand there and do it. It just does it on its own, so that we can get these in digital, because then we can get copies out to people.
Well, the thing is that that's already been taken care of.
Okay.
Because under the RV, the revaluation of currencies, that's actually under it. And one of the gifts that we're giving to people is, because I have a couple people that are going to help, and take all this, and they're going to organize it, and because we have it organized, in the index books and everything like that. But then organize it by, by here's Iran, all the stuff Iran, Iraq, South Korea, North Korea, and everything like this. All the ET stuff, everything. And we're going to have everything printed out, and we're going to have copies for everyone.
Beautiful. You let us know if you need anything, and we will help you with that. Okay.
No problem.
Awesome. Dude, go get some sleep. Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I'm not getting sleep. You kidding me? No.
I'm back to work. All right. Well, next time we will talk about many other things, and we will go deeper down the rabbit hole so we can educate everybody. But again, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate all you're doing.
Hey, thank you very much. And thank everybody for their time, for sticking around.
Absolutely. Dr. Jason Dean, Jason Q, as he's so well known now, dropping bombs on a Friday night. I will see you guys on Sunday at the normal time. Have an amazing night, and try to go sleep after all this. Be well. Take
Yeah.
care of yourselves. And as Jason said, and I always say, go serve and go help somebody tomorrow, because that is ultimately how we fix everything. Is we take care of each other and our own. You take care of yourself first, make sure you're good, but then make sure others around you are good. So be well. Have an amazing Friday night.